What we do right now is focus more on the problems that our company and our colleagues are facing every day. So what we are doing, we're a small team. We're about, at the moment, 5 to 6 colleagues plus myself, and we're trying to tackle very daily issues, very operative issues coming from different departments within the company. And we try, our objective is to accompany and solve these problems together with our colleagues. And just to give you an example, there is it can be something so small, such as a small project that we're running in order to solve the information lag for the passengers, where when short trains are arriving at long platforms in our metro lines, and how to make sure that they know exactly where to stand when the metro is arriving. So that's a small problem that we're working together with the metro colleagues. We have other issues such as how to improve and detect, try to identify patterns of incidents by the in our incident reports, so that the colleagues, the technicians, can say, okay, I know that this is a pattern and I've seen it before in other reports, and I can solve this maintenance or technical problem as fast as possible.
Welcome to the Mobility Innovators Podcast.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Mobility Innovator Podcast. I'm your host, Jaspal Singh. Mobility Innovator Podcast invite key innovators in the transportation and logistics sector to share their experience and future forecasts. In this episode, we'll be discussing the role of innovation and technology in mobility space. Our today's guest is a head of innovation of Hamburg Hochbahn. She joined Hamburg Hochbahn in July 2011 as a tariff and revenue specialist. Growing within the organization, she became the head of innovation in February 2023. Hamburg Hochbahn is the public transport operator in the city, operating 150 bus routes and 4 underground lines. The city is now investing in expanding the existing underground line and replacing the existing bus fleet. Hamburg is also one of the most innovative cities and exploring new form of mobility. UITP Next Global Public Transport Summit will be in Hamburg in 2025. So it can be a good opportunity for you to visit the beautiful city. I'm so happy to welcome Natalie Rodriguez, Head of Innovation, Hamburg Hochbahn. Now it's time to listen and learn. Hello, Natalie. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast. I know it took some time, but glad we made it.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Great. There are so many topics to cover as Hamburg is working on so many interesting projects. So let's kickstart our discussion with your personal journey in mobility space. You started your career with a consulting firm and work in different places before joining Hamburg Hochbahn in July 2011. What motivated you to pick this as a career option? And also, what inspired you to keep working? Because now you're working in a sector for more than a decade. And now you're a head of innovation. So also, can you share how the day look like in the life of a head of innovation at one of the largest transportation company in Germany?
Yes, so I originally come from Venezuela, and I started my career studying urban planning. And at the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to just keep on urban planning projects, and I took a master in public service management. And after this public service management master, I started in a small company, consulting company, working on small projects, all related to transportation for the city authorities, also for regional and state authorities in different countries here in Germany. And after that, I came to the Hochbahn in 2011, and it has been such an adventure. I have been blessed to have different opportunities within the company, so it is not boring at all. I started as a revenue specialist for a subsidiary of the Hochbahn, and then continue on a strategy position, And now I was project lead for autonomous vehicles here during the last 5 years, and now I'm the head of innovation starting this year, 2023. So different areas that I've been had the opportunity to tackle, and problems that were very fascinating, from feasibility studies in the time as I was a consultant, and now new projects that are important for the company all around innovation. So, yeah,
that's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, your story is not only about somebody who is successful within the company, but also a successful immigrant story. I didn't know that you came from Venezuela and settled down in Germany, and now you're working as a head of innovation at Hamburg. That's amazing. So how do you see the cultural thing play in your role?
That's I try to. It's very funny that you ask this question, because I remember when I was in the consulting company, I always used to say to my colleagues, I'm like Switzerland. I'm very neutral, because it was also it was a French German consulting company, and sometimes there were different ways of solving problems, and it was very fascinating for me to see how different teams solve different problems. And I saw myself always as Switzerland, say, okay, I can pick a little bit of the best and try to bring my own sauce in this project or problem. So yeah, it's very fascinating, and I'm really happy that I've had the opportunity to accompany different colleagues in the private sector, and now in the public sector working for the Hochbahn.
It's always good to experience different cultures and see how things work, and you can bring your own flavor, you can bring your own experience and your own perspective. Now, not many people know that Hamburg is the second largest city in Germany. In fact, I was surprised, because generally it's Berlin, Frankfurt, Munich, Cologne, which get more prominent name. So I want to know, so Hamburg also has the second largest public transit system. So can you share more about Hamburg Hochbahn? Now you're working for more than 12 years in this agency. And regarding ridership, did pandemic have any impact on the expansion of the system, or you are continue to expand system irrespective of what's ever going on with the pandemic?
Yeah, so Hochbahn, we run as a private company, but we are 100% owned by the city of Hamburg. This makes us quite special, because we have also the mentality of trying to always cover costs and always think about how can we be efficient. At the same time, we have this long-term perspective, which projects are important for the public interest, and are also important for the city. Hamburg has the Hochbahn has about 6,300 employees, and it's important to say that around 3,000 of these employees are bus drivers, and about 600 are metro drivers. So more than the half of our employees, they come from operations, and they are the ones that are running the systems every day in, day out. And it's also very important to see what are their needs, and how can we improve the systems, also based on what they give as feedback on a regular basis. We operate 115 bus lines and 4 metro lines in Hamburg. We are one of the biggest operators in Hamburg, but there are also smaller bus operators, and also the train company is also a big player in the city. And it's also important to say that we are pretty healthy when it comes to our finances. We have about 80% of cost recovery ratio, and this ratio is something that I would say the Hochbahn is very proud about in the last years. We also had a level of almost over 90%. And now that we are investing in new projects and new programs that are important for expansion in the city, then we this cost recovery ratio has suffered a bit, but it's still a pretty good recovery ratio. So we're really proud about that. And we have a lot about I would say 384 million passengers that they drive with us year in, year out. And regarding to your question, the pandemic hit us, I think, pretty hard, like many other public areas. I think 2020-21 were shock years for many people all over the world. And now we're coming close to the levels of 2019 this year. But we had, the last few years where we were, let's say, I would say that, for instance, 2022, we were about 83% the level of 2019.
That's amazing. I love your opening line saying it's owned by government, but run as a private, which is important because then you can bring the best of both. You can bring some of the policy structure, key objective to serve society from the public sector, but at the same time, bring efficiency, operational efficiency. And cost recovery ratio 80%. I think a lot of agencies will be quite jealous to hear that because it's quite remarkable to achieve 80%. And even when you mention 90% cost recovery, but that's important because when you have that kind of a financial sustainability, you can invest back. You can invest in the expansion and you can invest in the innovation. And it's very important to keep investing in the system because things are changing. And we will discuss during our conversation about a lot of new projects which Hochbahn is doing in Hamburg and trying to expand. Now, you are heading the innovation department at Hamburg Hochbahn. And I know, like you mentioned, you are busy. You are not feeling bored because every day is a new challenge. So what are the main projects in your unit? And tell us a little more about the unit of innovation at Hamburg Hochbahn. How did the idea came? Because a lot of cities and a lot of authorities try to create a unit of innovation, but it never work out. Like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. What is the secret sauce in Hamburg that why the innovation unit is working well?
Well, we are working on this sauce. We hope to make it really spicy in the next years. So adding our own flavor, if we can keep it in this metaphor. But what we do right now is focus more on the problems that our company and our colleagues are facing every day. So what we are doing, we're a small team. We're about, at the moment, 5 to 6 colleagues plus myself. And we're trying to tackle very daily issues, very operative issues coming from different departments within the company. And we try, our objective is to accompany and solve these problems together with our colleagues. And just to give you an example, there is it can be something so small, such as a small project that we're running in order to solve the information lag for the passengers, where when short trains are arriving at long platforms in our metro lines, and how to make sure that they know exactly where to stand when the metro is arriving. So that's a small problem that we're working together with the metro colleagues. We have other issues such as how to improve and detect, try to identify patterns of incidents by the in our incident reports, so that the colleagues, the technicians can say, okay, I know that this is a pattern and I've seen it before in other reports, and I can solve this maintenance or technical problem as fast as possible. So that's so the identification of patterns in incident reports is also a small project that we're going to start with our boss colleagues. We also have some projects where we're working together with the University of Hamburg, where we give this challenge to the students in the university, and they try to solve it, and then we put the two ends together. We put the colleagues in contact or in connection with the university, and try to accompany them when this challenge is being developed and tried out by the students. So that's something that we do. And so another small example could be also how to have a better detection of crowd management in critical stops for another subsidiary company, that they say, well, we know that there are big events throughout the year, and we would like to know how are the flows, how many people are going to be here, how people, and based on the data that we have from previous years, what can we do to improve our work as guards being there, just to make sure that everything's running correctly. So those are some of the projects that we're working on, and our main I would say areas of working is just to set up new trend management, just to see what are the new impulses that are coming from outside, and how do we communicate, and who are the main stakeholders of these trends, of this information, and to prepare different products so that the colleagues can use it. And the second area of field of work is just working specifically on different issues that are being presented, or that we know are there from other departments within the company.
Amazing. All the projects you mentioned are quite exciting, because I mean, a lot of city face problem with you have a shorter, like I know in New York and in New Jersey, I saw this, like your platform is shorter and your trains are long, and then you have to inform to the passenger, and sometimes the passenger who are new to the system, they don't know that you need to move in the front to get out, otherwise you'll be stuck. And similarly, there will be problem of longer station in the shorter train. So these are interesting project, and I would say from customer point of view, quite important. So it may look small, like I would say you are humble to say that these are small projects, but I know it's very challenging to solve these problems for the customer, for internal staff. So it's very interesting to say that how your focus is to solve the problem of the internal as well external customer, both your employees as well as the riders, and innovation need to play that role of understanding what are the challenges and how to solve it, rather than solve something and then try to find a problem. So most of the time I've seen the department which fail is they come out with something new and then they don't know what problem they are solving. But I love your approach that you are understanding the problem first and engaging with the university, engaging with the student. And I would say that's kind of a secret sauce, focusing on the problem and then solving it.
Exactly, and I think it's not evident just to say this, that you have to focus on the problem, see what exactly, how big is it, just take time to understand what the problem is. Is it really a problem, or something that maybe is just an activity to solve and not even a problem? So we took a lot of time, I have to say, just to have this focus, to say we have to have this in our core of activity, and of course all things that are developing outside, all external trends and all external activities are also important to have on mind. But you have to see what are the problems now and what could be the problems in the future. So it's like you have to be a little bit ambivalent in order to stay put on stay on earth and solve the things that you need on the short term first.
Yeah, I agree. Stay top on the things. So you need to understand how the things, like what will be the future problem, and then only you can be proactive and try to solve it. Now, City of Hamburg has a very ambitious plan. Like you mentioned, you already have touched the 2019 level, 83%, 85% of ridership. But there is a plan to increase the share of public transport by 2030. So I was reading that there is an ambitious project called Hamburg Dark, which aim to increase the market share from 22% in 2017 to 30% by 2030, which is amazing, because a lot of cities are actually trying to just reach to the same level of pre-pandemic. But Hamburg has this ambitious plan to not only recover, but also grow the ridership in next 5-10 years. And as you mentioned, now Hamburg is investing a lot of money in the capital project to expand the system. And I'm pretty sure the technology will also play a critical role. It's not just the infrastructure, but also the technology. So I want to understand now first with the Hamburg underground project. So Hamburg has, like you mentioned, 4 underground line. It's one of the biggest in Germany. And it's now constructing a new underground metro line, U5, which is amazing. Not many city has this opportunity to create new line. It's a very ambitious project, but what making me more exciting about this project is that it's a fully automated GOA 4 line, which is a rare. It's not many cities have attempted it. It will be sad to know that in North America, we don't have even a single city with automated line. I mean, they have infrastructure, but they never implemented it. So it will be a big game changer, and I'm pretty sure probably will bring some people from North America to visit Hamburg to showcase. So would love to know more about this GOA4 line and what's the role of technology here and how as a head of an innovation department, you're involved in this project.
Okay. The first thing I have to say is that this line is just a few facts. It's going to be a 24-kilometer long line. It would have 23 metro stops, and it's being planned and constructed by a subsidiary of the Hochbahn, which has been created last year in order to fully focus on the planning and construction of the line. And other departments within the company are working, giving input, giving specific information and specific level of expertise. But the hardcore and all the muscle work, I would say, comes from the subsidiary company, and it's called the Metro Line 5 Limited company. So yeah, as you mentioned, it's going to be a grade of automation 4. At the moment, they are planning at least trying to plan this line on a 90-minute frequency, so interval of arriving and leaving the different stops. And it's going to be it's going to be offering a new service for residential areas in the west and the east of the city. And these two parts are going to be connected directly to the city, which was something that has been discussed and debated a long time to how to provide a better service to these specific parts of the city. And our role is specific to give, let's say, at the moment we're going to start, we haven't started yet, but we're trying to create a small work team in order to make sure that all the passenger information is up to date and is the latest state of the art when it comes to deliver the final product, which means more or less to make sure that the team working on this line are informed about the latest technology related passenger information. And this could be something that we're going to be working from our side as a team innovation for the company, for the subsidiary company of the Hochbahn. So that's something we haven't or we have talked about, but we haven't started yet, and we have to set up our milestones and set up this task force. So basically, if we get a go, it means that we have to come up with a plan in order to make sure that our colleagues are well informed, are up to date with the latest technology for passenger information. So when it comes to building that on the stops and also on the metro line, that they have what they need in order to build it for the year. Let's say, I would say in a couple of years in the future, or many years in the future. So yeah.
No, interesting, and I really found this model very interesting. Like, instead of disturbing the existing organization and the current organization, create a subsidiary and then let the subsidiary kind of take the full burden of, developing plan and launch the project. And then the internal department can be a support system for this new organization, like you mentioned, as an innovation.
And just to have another information here share is just the fact that there is also a unit of social participation that is working within the Hochbahn, and they are going to be, or they're still providing all support needed in order to make sure that all the citizens and neighbors that are somehow involved, or they have some kind of connection within the line, that they get the information that they need and that they can also participate, which is also very important for the success of the construction of the line. So this is another example of how units within the company work together with the subsidiary in order to provide good services, good expertise, and make sure that the project will be successful.
Amazing. No, I think a lot of time people think innovation just as a technology, but I tell people innovation can be anything. It can be process innovation, it can be structural innovation, it can be organization innovation, like what Hochbahn is doing right now, creating a subsidiary and taking that. That's quite interesting and unique. Now, the other big project which Hamburg Hochbahn is doing is electrification, and you're not alone. Many cities have target to electrify their fleet, and many city has ambitious target, like Hamburg has. You want to replace 1,100 diesel buses with zero emission buses by 2030. I just want to share, like, a lot of people think zero emission only mean electric, but it's not true. Zero emission can mean electric buses, but fuel cell, also the hybrid and the other kind of fuel, which is closer to bringing the carbon emission to level nil. Now, Hamburg currently have 200 electric buses, which is amazing. Not many city have that large fleet, so I'm pretty sure you get a lot of good experience with those buses now. And in 2020, the city awarded 530 buses to 3 different manufacturers, which is very interesting, because that's what I want to have more discussion with you, because you have selected Daimler buses, Solaris, and MAN truck to supply these 530 buses. How agencies using and planning to use technology to integrate electric buses in operation? Because that's one of the challenge agencies face when you have diesel buses as well as you bring electric buses, how to integrate. But I think the other thing which I'm asking people and getting different answer is the how you manage data. What kind of data do you receive from these buses? And how do you address the interoperability issue with the mixed fleet? Because you are bringing different buses for different manufacturers. Everybody have a different data code or different standards. So how you're trying to bring everything together? And if I can add one more point, sorry for this long question, but I'm very interested in this area, but is like, how do you manage the battery health and fire safety issue? Because in North America, that's one of the key challenge a lot of cities are facing, the fire safety. How to make sure your buses can share the right data information so that you can predict these kind of incident.
Yeah, so well, let's start from the beginning. Let's start from the beginning. I would say from the personal, I would say from the colleagues, from the beginning of our electric bus program. I would say at the beginning there were just a few colleagues that started as a project. They started this program first as a project, just saying, okay, how can we integrate one and few bus lines in our system? How to make sure that they are charged properly, and how they should stay in our depots and so on. And it has been now over, I would say, more than 7 years at least, and now we have this number of buses together, and the complexity grows, of course, with the number of buses and the number of different buses that are being run by the company. And we have now today, thanks to the energy and the engagement of our different colleagues that are working in this specific area, different systems that are being used in order to meet the requirements of the electric buses. So we have one planning tool of the buses that takes into account the new ranges of the buses. There is the depot management system that or software that tries to adapt to the different process to electric buses. And how can we integrate new areas where the buses maybe outside the depot need to be charged? So that's something that they are working on daily, and they work also on the on problems related to how they can be the different buses, how can they can be recharged, not only the depot, but eventually in specific bus stops, and how you can match the timetable with the recharging and also bringing it back to the depot. So they tested the different systems, the depot management and the planning system, and not least, there is also a new charging management system, which is also responsible for the control of charging processes in our depots. In order to make sure that depot management system has all the information. We implement telematics services to get important data of the electric buses and the state of charge of the battery, which is crucial for these kind of buses. When you asked a question about interoperability, it was very important from the beginning to test different buses to try to see how our charging stations react to the different buses, and also the charging stations are also not all from the same supplier. And we concentrate in every case on the fleet management, on the FMS standard of the buses. And that's how we try to avoid interoperability issues within a mixed fleet. On this standard has a different level of data available. And the focus in general from the colleagues is to evaluate and carry out forecasts related to the range of the buses and workshop issues. So what are the typical failures and what can we do about it in order to solve them? And the last question that you mentioned, how to manage battery health. We use also here a specific diagnosis tool in the workshops, and we don't get at the moment constant data from the bus concerning this topic. So it's at the moment, that's what I can say about that. We also, regarding the question of fire safety issues, some of our manufacturers implement or already implemented an alert when the battery has a critical status and the bus starts to honk for 30 seconds and to blink. Since the risk of the fire triggered by battery is highest during the charging and discharging, we decided to submit this information only during the charging process in the depot via the charging. So,
amazing. I mean, I can imagine you're busy with so many other things going on with electrification, and like you mentioned, when you scale up the fleet, the complexity increase. It's not as easy. When you have a small number of fleets, 10, 20, you can manage it manually. But the moment you have hundreds of buses, the level of management is completely different. Like you mentioned about depot management system, charge management system, fleet management system, and everything need to interact with each other. You need to constantly speak to each other, like the status of charge of the battery, and then it impact the routing and the planning of the buses. So it's very important that all these systems should interact with each other.
Yes, and it's still running, and we're still working on the interfaces between the different systems, and also how to continue scaling up, because as you mentioned, we have a very ambitious target within Hamburg Tax, which is to be CO2 neutral until 2030. So this program of continuing developing and acquiring new electric buses is we're still there on track, and we need to continue increasing our fleet, our e-bus fleet, in order to do that, in order to come closer to this objective.
Yeah, no, amazing. No, good to know that how things are moving on, and thanks for sharing all this detail, because many cities which are started on their journey of electrification are facing this issue. I know many cities, they are procuring charger and vehicle from different manufacturer, but they are not thinking about interoperability right now. So it's important to learn that how Hamburg is doing it. So thanks for sharing that. Now, my next question is actually can be very close to your heart, because you were head of the autonomous mobility project at Hamburg. So I know it's something, it's like your first project, you develop it from the scratch, so it must be very close to your heart. So Hamburg Hochbahn was one of the early adopter of testing autonomous vehicle, I would say, when other cities were discussing about it, but you guys take the lead and you said, okay, we need to test it. And you launched this project called HEAT, Hamburg Electric Autonomous Transportation. So I love the name. And you did it for 2 years. So can you share some of your experience from the project? And also, you were the project lead of the first project with autonomous shuttle. Can you tell more about the kind of learning you had this project, and what are the challenge you face? Because being an early adopter is also means you have lot more challenge to face. You were the one who developed the product with the manufacturer. So what were your challenges and what were you learning?
Yeah, as I said, related to the question of our colleagues within the electric bus department, I have to say we also get now coming to automated buses. I have to start also by the beginning and just say that, you know, we started in 2017 just doing trend analysis, and at the time AV and driverless technology was just something, you know, that started to be published and to be spoken about. And I remember we produced two different reports, trend reports, saying to our steering committee, to our managing committee, look, this is something that's going to continue growing. Let's have a deeper look and see what can we do. And we had the full support of our committee, of our steering committee, to say, well, let's start a project with local colleagues, local partners, and see what we can do together. And I think one of the things that was very special about the project is that we had one vehicle being tested, and it ran in the city, in one part of the city of Hamburg, but we were really all together in the development of the functional safety of the vehicle. So even from our side, which we were the public transport operators, we knew exactly, or we learned exactly what it means to be, what you need as a safety requirements engineering, and what you need to prepare, and which scenarios, which traffic scenarios you need to prepare as testing scenarios before you go live with the vehicle. So it was a fantastic experience with this different type of colleagues that we had from the car manufacturer side, also from the research and development side, and from the city as well, just to mention a few of them. So it was a very good time working together and being open and honest about what's the technology at that time, what's the level, and what can we do realistically on the streets of Hamburg between 2020 and 21. So and so so the questions, what were the objectives? We wanted to honestly answer the question, what is the state of the art related to automated technology on bus, on small shuttles? What are the business cases that could be interesting from a public transport point of view? And what is the public acceptance? Basically, that's where our three North stars in this project.
No, amazing. And like you mentioned in the beginning, that you need to understand the trend which is going to impact you in the future. And interesting to learn, like you started working in 2017 so that you can launch project in 2019, because a lot of time people make this mistake is they jump on the boat and then try to learn, but you took time to understand the thing, you understand different scenario, how it will impact the different traffic situation in the city, and then only you launch the pilot in the city to collect data and understand it. And I agree with you, the user acceptance is a major thing. It's easy to say, okay, bring technology, but see how people will accept it. And now you are doing another project. You launched the second version, or I would say the version 2 of this autonomous mobility with a new Holon mover. And I love that vehicle. I saw the picture of that vehicle. It looks so amazing. It just launched in July, so it's one month back. So it's pretty new, but I'm pretty sure, like you mentioned, you started working in 2017 for 2019. So what is happening in 2013? The preparatory work started long back in 2020 or 21. So you will be launching this new vehicle on the street in 2024. So it'll be first electric, shared, and autonomous operation in the city, which is amazing, because that's what we see the future will be. It will be electric, it will be shared, it will be autonomous. Can you share how you are preparing for this and some key feature of the project, how this project will be different from the heat, and what lesson you will try to incorporate in this new project?
The first thing I have to say is that this project is going to be also carried out from directly from the Department of Hamburg, which is also some great colleagues that worked on the strategy of Hamburg and what do we need to implement in general and what are the specific projects. And under this department, the new cooperation with Holon is going to be carried out and supervised and just having the project there. We can say that at the moment that one of the things is that the first milestones that are going to be visible will start maybe the end of next year, that I can say about at the moment. And yeah, there's going to be a 5-meter long bus for 15 people, and it should be able to travel up to 60 kilometers per hour. And an addition or one of the differences compared to our previous project is that this is a shuttle that is going to be booked, and it would not be route based, but it would be more a flexible service that you can book over an app. Like a ride-sharing service, and that's quite something special and unique compared to the first project where we were route-based and just testing on making sure that all the scenarios, the traffic scenarios, were fully met in this specific area of Hamburg. In this new project, the area should be broader, and it should have another level of availability, and also it should be booked over an app in order to benefit from the service from the passenger point of view.
That's amazing. So you said it will be 60 kilometers per hour or 16 kilometers?
Up to 60. So it should
60,
be
up to
60, up to 60. That's the plan. Still part of the plan on the moment. Yeah.
That's amazing, because that's where a lot of autonomous projects are stuck, because they run at 5 or 10 kilometers per hour. I mean, you can walk faster. So bringing to that level, it's amazing.
We, just to give you an idea, in the previous project, in the HEAT project, we had the maximum speed that we were able to achieve, where it was about 25 kilometers per hour.
25.
And you know, every time you increase the speed, you increase the level of risk. You have to make sure that in less time you have to be able to brake. Your sensors have to be dead on right. You cannot miss a small object, which eventually could be a cat or a dog, or what do you know? So the aspect of speed is crucial when it comes to new projects for the AV world. Yeah.
Now, you are an autonomous mobility expert, I would say, and you're seeing this area, like you mentioned, from 2017, when things were not even very trendy. Recently in San Francisco, the city of San Francisco allowed Cruise and Waymo to run 24/7 paid autonomous driverless car operation services. And it's going both sides. It's going positive and negative. I see some of the news which are positive, some of the news which are negative. What do you think about this decision of launching a complete autonomous robotaxi fleet in the city? And where do you see things will go from here?
Well, I'm also following with popcorn the events and the developments in the States, and I have to say that it was very exciting just to see what was going to happen on the August 10th, whether or not the big companies are going to get an extra permit or not, and they got it, but it was also pretty. It was highly debated within the commission. I think it was 3-1. One voted against, 3 for the expansion of their permit. I think here, at least what has been happening is that from a public side, and what I read from here from Hamburg is that one reads that certain incidents are systematically appearing over and over again. It's just not an isolated incident, but you see a pattern. You see that all the traffic scenarios, and we come back to our traffic scenarios related to ambulance appearances or police cars or fire trucks are not really well solved. So, and I think, until you have a plan in order to solve these crucial situations, which will appear over and over again, you should not be allowed to expand, because you're going to scale your problem. So I think I'm definitely open, and I am for the further testing and further continuing of making this technology available, and that we can use it. But I say you have to do it safely, and you have to do it with a certain milestones that have to be shown to the city authorities in order to continue the current permits. And I think, I don't know the details, but I think it's going to be risky. It could be risky. Let's just put in conditional. It could be risky if they don't do something about it. And I think from the city point of view, they should find ways in order to make sure that they both private companies developing these technologies and the city authorities, that they work together, because they're going to create otherwise eventually, always in conditional, more problems for the traffic situation today than provide solutions.
No, I love your point about scaling up the problem. So it's not scaling up the solution, but if you don't address all the issue properly, it will actually scale up the problem, and it can be more risky. And I fully agree with you. The pattern recognition is very important. You need to understand what happened in the past and how you need to solve it. If you don't do it, it will create more problem, and it need to be done safely. I think sometimes you need to hit and trial, but sometimes you need to stop and you need to go back to the drawing board and understand, okay, how to make it much more safer and launch it. That's also what's happening with micromobility or e-scooter. We are seeing they emerge in US, but they flourish in Europe. And that's what I tell a lot of people, that innovation happen in US, but actually it flourishes in Europe, because Europe has more structural framework or model to implement those innovation. We see a lot of cities launch e-scooter. It was very popular, but suddenly we see how the problem they were creating in the city. Recently, Paris decided to ban it. On the other hand, London has extended its pilot for next year. They want to understand much more. They want to understand more about what's going on with the system. Hamburg also conducted this pilot with the e-mobility or e-scooter, I would say, in 2022, and published some result in about their study. It was very interesting. I went through that report. It was good to see what did you learn from that pilot. So can you share some interesting finding from that pilot? And also, as a head of innovation, because you rightly mentioned, anything you are launching in public has to be safe for everybody. So what do you think, how cities should deal with micromobility? Should they be pro? Should they be against? Or should they have some regulation? I know it's not an easy question, but you must be getting this question from everywhere.
At least we are asking ourselves the question within the team, because this project started also in our unit, and also direct from colleagues that are working within the unit. And when we started our first e-scooter project, we asked also as well as for heat, set up specific goals. And one of the goals was to understand, we wanted to actually increase the attractiveness of public transport. We want to say, well, we want to make sure that we provide additional services so that people will say it is easier for me to use a metro line or a bus line. and still continue to provide alternative solutions to the private use of cars. And in this project, we also wanted to measure what could be the impact. So if we provide specific areas with e-scooters working and collaborating with these e-scooter companies, what are the results? What does anything change? Does everything stay the same? So what kind of metrics do we have to set up in order to analyze the impacts of new e-scooter solutions at a specific stop? So those were basically the questions that we set up as goals or objectives. And we had the pilot for about 2 years, and we had 2 locations that were 150 e-scooters were set up, and they had also a specific parking zone within the near the metro stations, and they were also digitalized in the app of the e-scooter provider, so you can only park there. So it was marked physically and also in the app. So you cannot you wouldn't as a user be allowed to park outside this area. And so we this project was part of a bigger program, Solutions Plus, that was an e-funding program where we had some financing from the program, and like other cities being part of this project, it was important, or the main objective was to test e-mobility solutions in order to come closer to this objective, big mission of zero emission urban mobility. And the program is still running until the end of this year. And now we are just finishing with our deliveries, final reports, final analysis of the data. So what we could say from the data that we collected on site is that in general, the e-scooter service was well received. We had about 130,000 trips in 13 months. And we had analysis of the variation of the use, and there were some seasonal fluctuation. That means like summer high use, winter rainy days lesser use. And just to give you an idea, the month with the fewest use was February, winter, and with the highest number was in August 2021. With about 14,000 trips being carried out in the month. So also we try to match our numbers of passengers on PT, public transportation, related to e-scooters. And here we saw that there was a slight deviation. So the highest demand was more or less in the afternoon, evening. So we can assume that it was mostly people that wanted to go back from work, or they wanted to do another activity, use mostly the e-scooters rather than in the morning. So that's some of the key findings. And another thing is that the users in 2021 were predominantly younger users, so about less than 35 years, and they used to be predominantly male and employed. So it was a single person. Of course, there's only one person should use the e-scooter, and mostly male and employed.
Interesting. And you said you will be extending the program till next year, the pilot, and you have already thought what's your plan for next year?
Exactly. So the project within this AU program is running until this year. So now we are preparing the final reports and deliveries written. And now we're talking together with our unit or department of sales, and specifically the colleagues that are planning and carried out new switch points, just to inform you about our switch points. Or switch points are mobility hubs. So switch points are physical areas where we try to encourage intermodal use. So we have in this specific hub the offer of either car sharing, bike sharing. There is in the near X meters, there is a metro line. So these hubs are close to metro stops, and also I mentioned car sharing, bike sharing, and now we're trying to find ways to implement our e-scooter use. So that's a new activity that's being analyzed and defined through our colleagues of sales and specifically the team working on the development of mobility hubs. So, and we're working together with them to provide our expertise from this first pilot. The idea is overall to find a way to, within these mobility hubs, to have another service of e-scooters, and also very important to have it implemented unregulated. So it doesn't, so one of the, coming back to the question, what can we do to integrate a new service and that is not so chaotic? What we know from other cities that they can be good examples of this is to have a specific set of rules and just not be able to have, the whole city as a parking place, or then otherwise have specific areas where the e-scooters can be parked. That's one of the things that we have seen, that it works very well. And if we had that all over the city, it would be a great thing for everyone, not only the e-scooters users, but specifically for the people not using e-scooters, that they would say, well, is everything clean, and they're not disturbing our areas of walking or pedestrian or cycling and so on, because that's basically the problem today, that you find them everywhere and they can be in places where they shouldn't be parked.
And I think it's very important to serve the need of those who are using, but also the need of those who are not using it, and make sure the city is not chaotic. You have dedicated parking space for these scooter and plan. And I didn't aware about this switch point you mentioned, the mobility hub. That's quite interesting, because I don't think many cities have those kind of area, which is like a multi-mobility hub where people can take car sharing, bike sharing, now e-scooters and other facility, and it's closer to the public transportation infrastructure. Quite interesting. Like Hamburg is doing a lot of interesting project. I'm looking forward to visit in 2025 for UITP Summit. Now, City of Hamburg also launched very interesting project, which is called Urban Data Platform. And it was done in 2017. I would say it is one of the most comprehensive open data platform for the city. Shared vehicle, road, parking, charging point, construction zone, other services. I give this example to many other cities to see like how, if they want to implement open data platform, how they can copy what Hamburg has done. London also have a good approach, but not many cities in North America, I would say, or in Asia, they have a good platform. Can you share your...
Yeah, but just a question, I just coming back to this idea, because I'm just surprised that in USA, there is not a number of agencies that have open data. So why is that? Just a question going back to you.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because I asked them, and I think first point is lack of awareness. They don't even know what open data mean, because I spoke to some agencies and I said, do you have open data platform? They are not aware what open data platform mean. I think the second challenge is they feel sharing data can be dangerous to them or harmful to them. So they feel I should not share data with other public or in the open market, because the moment I share data with others, it can have a negative impact on the agency. I know it's sad, because that's where the technology come, but the policy side, it's much weaker. And that's why I'm very curious to learn like how you see Hamburg as Hochbahn see open data, and why it is important for transit companies to share their data. Because like I shared, a lot of agencies think it can have negative impact on them, and they don't want to share their data because they feel the riders will go away, or other private transport like our ride hailing companies and all use their data to give a negative feedback to people and then take away their passenger. But as a public transit agencies, what do you think why they should do it? And probably with your viewpoint, we have some city come forward in USA, okay, we want to implement now open data policy.
So I think the first question about open data is you have to know why. What are your objectives of sharing specific data for with other entities? And I think it's important to understand which are the other entities. So how, to have specific and transparent contracts and program in order to say, I trust you, you trust me, we're going to share data, you're going to use it for these purposes, maybe I can use some of your data for these purposes. And I think this is always a central key element in this discussion, is to know you have trustful or trustworthy partners that are going to use your data, yes, but they maybe can provide an additional service and an additional improvement of one of the areas of your services, and just to have specific real expectations of how they're going to be used. So, and because this open data is just a big word, and you have to bring it down to at least 3 levels of crystal clear messaging, then you can say, okay, now we're going to present, or we're going to give a specific data or tranches of data to specific areas, or we give it to just to everyone, but we know why we're doing it and not just to do it. So I think that's from my point of view, a personal point of view, that's the most important question, to understand why you're doing it, with whom you're doing it, and what are the relationship? What kind of is there a contractual agreement, and if so, everyone respecting what has been agreed upon. From the Hochbahn point of view, I can say that we have now shared timetables, informations, and also the possibility of buying tickets over Google Maps and Google Navigation. And I think this working together with Google has made the use of transportation for the passengers, for the clients, much easier, because it's not a secret that everyone uses Google Maps. And now when you're looking to find different itineraries, you can also have as an option public transport, and they can give you directly our connection, which route are you going to be taking, bus and or metro and or regional train, and just to see how much it could cost. So this is, I would say, an additional benefit for the customer. And this specific cooperation has shown that you can collaborate with external private companies, but it's very important to know what are the rules that you have been defined together.
I love your point about, one is having a clear objective, and second is to have a trust and finding trustworthy partners so that you can learn from each other, you can share data. And you will be shocked to hear, but I feel Google work much better with European agencies than in US agencies. I don't know why they have this bias. There are many agencies, they don't even have GTFS feed right now to provide data to Google. And in fact, for ticketing also, I see more integration for Google Wallet in Europe than in US. So I think it's also important point is having those trust and having clear objective and how to work together and setting the rule of the game. And that's what I tell transit agencies. You are the boss here. You can set the rule of the game and play with that, but try to make it win-win for everybody so that everybody can get benefit out of it. And ultimately the passenger should get benefit out of it. Not like the agency or the company, but the passenger, like you mentioned, everybody use Google Map. I go to any new city, I open up the map and try to find the route. And the better information you provide, easier it will be for people to jump on public transportation and use it. So creating that kind of environment, it takes a lot of work. And congratulations to you, because it's not only the agency, but the city also has this open data platform, and everybody's working together, because tomorrow if there is a construction happening, in advance that how you need to reroute your bus operation, how you need to plan your services, you can do it in a better way.
There's still a lot to do, Gaspar,
I know.
I have to say. I mean, if you being a citizen of Hamburg, I have to say there's always ways of improvement and better creation of interfaces. And there are lots of new projects also from the city perspective in order to have greener areas and better infrastructure on the roads, which some city sectors need to have, and renewal of let's say new streets and so everything, having to have parallel projects on the streets at the same time, I think it's not easy.
It's not easy. And the problem happen is when you live in the city, you have a very different perspective. Like you ask people what they think about Singapore and London, they will say it's one of the best. But you ask the local Singaporean in London, and they'll say, it's one of the worst. So you always have that perspective because you live in the city and experience. But I feel what you said is the idea should be do more, like how to stay top of the game and keep updating and doing and that's the one point I want to discuss with you, because like open data, open innovation is also important thing which public agencies should incorporate. You already mentioned Hamburg Hochbahn is working with the University of Hamburg, involving students to work on new project, new idea. I want to understand what approach you are following to work with startup and new founders or a new innovator. And do you have any open innovation program or grand challenge, and you're planning to do something in that area?
Yes, also very interesting questions, specifically for us, for our colleagues working in this unit of innovation. I think first of all that Hamburg is a very open-minded city. It's also very international. I would say it's a very multicultural city. At least I feel it as a Venezuelan, half Venezuela with a half heart from Hamburg. And you feel this energy just coming from different cultures, different people working here in the city, in different entities and different public agencies. So, and I think different agencies are also trying out different formats of working with external companies, also with startups, just to see what kind of new ideas can be generated just working with these companies. From our point of view, I would say we're in the beginning, we are starting the collaboration with the university through challenges, and we're also talking with different companies outside, not only with colleagues from other cities, also from the public transport sector, but also from small companies, startups. But again, here is always very important, even if we are at the beginning, but because we are at the beginning, we don't have an innovation program per se. But the first question the questions that we are asking ourselves is, what are the objectives? How can we work together with startups in order to find ways where we both can profit from each other, and we can create maybe minimal valuable products, or we can create some prototypes that can be on the long run a good solution, a good possible solution for us as a public transport operator. So we're, to be honest, at the beginning of just formulating these questions and formulating possible ways of collaborating with startups. And of course, we have embryonic examples of working with startups, 3-week prototyping or 2-week prototyping. And these experiences we have already gained or have had with them. And the question that I'm basically or mainly asking our colleagues is, okay, after working embryonic in 3-week format, maybe 2-week format, what can we do together? What makes sense for us? Developing what we're doing right now in order to work with them. So that's where we are at the moment. Maybe, and I would say ask this question maybe in
a year time.
Exactly. And then we can maybe have another answer.
No, I love your point about saying that, accepting that, okay, we are beginning, we are trying to explore this, because a lot of agencies think it's a big bang theory approach, like, okay, one day everything will set in place and you will have an innovation department and open innovation policy. But that's not how it works. You have to start somewhere and slowly build it. And like what your strategy and approach is to understand. And I think the most important objective is that you need to see how both party can win from this. It's not just the agency, because the startup, they have a very small runway, very short runway, very short resources. So how they can optimize their resources, at the same time how agency can get benefit out of it. So approach of creating those MVP, minimum viable product, I think that's the right approach. No, happy to see how it goes, and happy to share some resources, how other cities are doing it, what you should do and what you should not do, what other city has done in the past. So happy to share resources. One other project which I want to discuss with you is the digital twins. It's getting a lot of popularity now. I see a lot of agencies are accepting digital twins in London, in Hong Kong, in Japan. They have this digital twin project. And I saw the city of Hamburg also launch this digital twin at the city level, which is very unique, combining the 3D data model with other urban data so that you can see in a virtual environment everything. I'm not sure if Hochbahn is part of that. And are you planning digital twin for the underground network? Like, is there any future plan for that?
Okay. Yeah. To answer the first question, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but no, we're not part as a public transport operator. We're not a part of this project specifically, but many, at least 3-4 different entities within the city are part of the project, and the idea is to tackle specific issues related to the use of digital twins, which is a pretty cool thing, also being set up from the city perspective. At the moment, I would say we're just at the beginning of analyzing what are the impacts of digital twins, and how can how relevant it could be for us on the middle run, I would say. In this specific project, we're not an active member. And to the question about digital twins with us, there are some departments working on digital twins for building, modeling, and also construction in the construction department. But digital twins are not a systemic solution for all departments. So it should be interesting also for us to have to keep on observing the impacts of digital twins, and maybe I'll come again in contact with the specific departments just to let them know what other operators are doing in this area.
No, happy to share. Again, like I mentioned, there are a lot of cities which are implementing it. London Underground, they launched a project on digital twin. Basically, they want to replicate the whole underground line so that the maintenance work can be done better. And if there is any problem in any area, they can see in a virtual environment and try to rectify exactly the same spot and same problem. Similarly, in JREs and MTR is using it. So happy to share resources. That's a way of, this conversation is also to share what's happening around the world, and happy to share. Now, this is my last question. And as an head of innovation, you mentioned this point, I would say at least 10 times, that you are looking at the future trend. You are looking at what's going on and how these trends will going to impact you in the future. So what are the key technologies, I would say, you are keeping a watch on and looking to introduce at Hochbahn in coming year? And any plan to introduce GenAI, because there is a lot of stuff going on in GenAI, conversational AI. So are you looking to implement something at Hochbahn? I mean, you said Hochbahn is kind of a multicultural city, but you have people with multilingual things. So are you looking to use some of these AI tool to make it much more inclusive?
So related to your coming back to your first question, so what are some trends that I'm specifically observing? Of course, generative AI is the hottest topic since the publication of ChatGPT, I would say, since a couple of months ago. So everyone is trying to find out what they can do and all the possible applications. So it is a very exciting new topic that we are observing, and we are accompanying. And at the moment, we want us to give us time to fully understand the possible implications for a public transport operator as ourselves, and what are real possible applications specifically within the company. So it's the IT department. The IT department is also talking about, discussing it, and just to see, can we eventually have a closed, not a closed environment, not an open, some kind of ChatGPT for specific applications within different units. So that's one of the things that we are observing. Another interesting technology or development, I would say, is the whole aspect of metaverse and what's going to happen in this digital world, and how many, at the same time, I have to say, sometimes I feel myself that I'm really not that digital, and I feel that this is a parallel world, and you have to understand what can be the possible impacts, and how much time what's going to, how people are going to change, or how their way of living is going to be eventually be affected or changed through the new final introduction of metaverse. So that's something that I'm just also keen in continuing and observing. And related to what we are going to specifically be doing in the Hochbahn, I think, AI is such a big word. If you take out AI and you say, we're talking about using smart algorithms to improve certain processes and a task, then I say, it will be nuts not to do something in this area, just to find ways in order to treat better your data, improve your tasks, have a central digital person companioning you for certain tasks that they're already centralized, and they can this digital help desk can give you specific information. So these are the things that I think we should we can and we're starting already doing that in a very small area, and I think these are the questions that we need to continue asking ourselves, as where does it make sense, what can we improve from our existing services, what does it mean to digitalize new processes, and what do we need in order to make certain data from certain colleagues available and direct accessible. So I would say not the big AI, but just small low-hanging algorithms that allow us to do a better work in the next years.
Yeah, no, I love your point about this continuous improvement rather than, again, looking at something really big or AI and technology. Let's come back to the ground and see, okay, what's problem you need to solve, how you can make the process more convenient and easier for people, what are the challenges they're facing in day-to-day work life, try to solve it rather than just thinking about bringing some of the big fancy tool and then try to find the use cases for that. It's better to have use cases and try to solve these things. And I agree with you. The metaverse, Web3, these are buzzwords. I mean, we don't know how things will be in 10 years. It can be big, it can be small. Like some cities are actually trying to play with it. Some cities are just looking at it. So we don't know how the next 10 years. Like I was recently listening to somebody, and he said if somebody can tell you how the next 10 years look like, he's actually lying, because nobody knows. Nobody knows what will happen in 10 years, whether we will have a flying cars or whether we have something else. So it'll be curious. No, thank you so much, Natalie. I mean, I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for your time. Before in this podcast, we have this rapid fire question round. It's a quick 5 questions. I just ask you to know a little bit more about your personal side. So if you're ready, I'll start with that.
All right.
Okay.
I'm all set.
Great. So you're working in transportation sector for so long, but let's say if you're not in transportation sector, what other profession you would have selected?
I think I would have been a good economist. I really like to understand and analyze macro factors and macro developments, and I think that would be my second choice.
Wow, that's amazing. And I agree with you, as in innovation person, you need to have economics mindset also to see whether that's feasible or not just driven away by the technology. Now, this is like second question. You live in different cities, but you travel in so many cities. Which is your favorite city in the world and why?
Well, at the moment, because it changes, I would say Sydney. I would say Sydney. My little sister is living there, and I had a blast the last time we visited her. It's just a city. It's such a sunny city, such a great energy, and I think that the people living there have a really high level of enjoying and just. A balance between work and life, and work and just leisure and sports and free time.
Yeah, and it's hotter compared to. No, it's a nice city. Which technology innovation you are very bullish on in next 5 years, if you need to pick one?
I'm very curious about the development of automated technology for buses and trucks and different vehicles. I'm just I'm following this developing, and I think I'm very curious what's going to happen when we're in 2028 and what's where are we at related to AV.
Probably we'll look back and see where are we after 5 years or 10 years. What one thing do you wish you should have learned early in life or in your career?
I mean, this is a very hypothetical question, but I think I would say I wish I could have already, since my childhood, already grow up with different languages. So I think that would be amazing. Just what are the impacts of being bilingual, trilingual when you're already 3-4 years old? I think that had always made amazed me. How the brain would develop just having this many different languages from the beginning on.
I agree. I know some people who can speak 7-8 languages, so it's very interesting how they manage to do it. It's sometimes hard, but they know what's the way. They use something for work language, some for personal life, some for their kids, and some for their school. It's amazing. I agree. It's very interesting. Now, this is my last question. If you can change one thing in life, what would it be?
Oh, yes, that's a very difficult question. One thing in life, is my life the life?
Anything in the life, in the world, in the society?
I don't know. This is such a I would say this is a question I have no answer. But I would say, if it's life, that the people, if there was an ability, I would say that that everyone had the ability to remember what were the errors of the ancestors. So you have already this knowledge, so you don't repeat the same mistakes.
Okay. So again, you're coming back to that pattern recognition. Remember what
pattern
happened
recognition, exactly. You remember your grandmother already did that, so you shouldn't do it.
You shouldn't do that. And I think that's very important. You need to know what happened in the past, because otherwise you will repeat the same mistake. So it's very important to learn from those mistakes and try to capture and move forward. And that's how the human being are. No, thank you so much, Natalie. I really enjoyed our conversation. I hope you find it useful, but I learned a lot of new things from you. And like I said, it's good to see when you mentioned that Hamburg Hochbahn is a public agency but run as a private organization, because you need to bring best of the both. There is no either side, and I always feel it's always good to bring both. And good to see from your career profile as well, like how you are taking forward this innovation at the agencies and are trying to bring new idea, new concept, and learning about new trends. So thank you for sharing all these knowledge with us, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed our conversation. I also learned new things about other cities. Thank you for that.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. If you like this episode, please don't forget to give us a 5-star rating, as it will help us to spread our message. If you have any feedback or suggestion for this podcast, please feel free to reach out to us at info@mobility-innovator.com. I look forward to see you next time. Thank you.